Welcome back to Across the Line, where we are going to get into the NCAA Tournament as the technically the tournament's already started last night. A couple of playing games. Mount St. Mary's, a 16 seed. They're going to have the right to play the number 1 seed, number 1 overall seed. In fact, Villanova Wildcats here. And then Kansas State, an 11 seed, they beat Wake Forest in their game, the late game from last night, and they get the right to play a Cincinnati team here coming up as well. And 2 more again tonight. You got NC North Carolina Central and University of California.
Davis. Yeah, UC Davis, and then we're looking at our brackets if you can't tell. And then
they'll play Kansas, the number 2 overall seed in the entire tournament.
Number 1 seed in the Midwest, and then
Providence at 11 seed takes on USC for the right to play the SMU.
And I'll throw this in here right now. The one team that I think could win in the first round out of the first 4 would be the winner of last night's game. I didn't care who it was going to be. I really hoped it would have been Wake Forest and see Danny Manning make a run in the tournament. But with what Bruce Weber has been able to do in Manhattan, Kansas, with Kansas State after getting fired by Illinois 5 years ago, who actually they just fired their head coach, so that didn't work out. They probably should have kept him. Kansas State's the only team that I think out of the first 4 will advance to the second round.
All right.
It'd be the third round technically for them since they already had 1 game in the first 4, but technically it's still the second round.
All right. So how are we going to go through this? We could go through each of the games, but I'm going to kind of do it all over the place almost. I'm going to start with some upset alerts because that's why we watch March Madness, right?
Yeah.
We watch it for the upsets. We always, even though we fill out bracket stuff, we still hope that the upset's going to happen anyway, because that's what this is all about. That's why it's called March Madness.
Yeah.
We need madness.
It's madness, baby.
So upsets, they're always the thing that we got to want. And the first one, I didn't do this in any particular order of how much likely these are going to be. I just kind of went through the bracket on each side. And just
the left side of the bracket up top and the top left is the
right.
East region.
Yeah.
And then the bottom left is the West, and then on the right-hand side and the top right is the Midwest region, and then in the bottom right is the South region.
Yeah, so I just kind of went through, but first one, I feel like it was the first one. It's probably one of the biggest ones everyone's going to say, of course. Virginia taking on UNC Wilmington, a 5-12 matchup. Always had a 5-12 matchups because they're the most common one to happen in history, really. But you look at this one, it is a clash of styles because Virginia is a very good defense.
Clash?
Yeah, styles clash, some may say. But clashing of styles, Virginia's very defensive. They're very great defensively. UNC Wilmington is a good offensive team, so we're going to see which one of these 2 styles prevails. I honestly think UNC Wilmington could win this game, obviously. It all depends on how well Virginia can slow them down, really.
I don't think they're... Well, I do have a 12-5, but it's not that one. Looking at my bracket
I know
here.
this is one that people were saying.
I could see this happening. It's normally anywhere from the 11-6s to the 14-3s. Anywhere from 11 to 14 there. Those are the biggest upsets every single season during March Madness in the NCAA Tournament. This game, both these schools are real close to each other. Virginia's in Charlottesville, Virginia. North Carolina, Wilmington's in Wilmington, North Carolina. They really don't have that far to go. They just got to go down to Orlando, Florida. You take 95 the whole way down. I think whoever does win this game, especially if North Carolina Wilmington does, they'll have a lot to brag about because they just beat the number 5 team in the East region and one of the top teams in the ACC in the past couple seasons in the Virginia Cavaliers. But I could see that happening, but I have Virginia moving on in the second round.
All right. Next one I have down, I don't know if you're going to agree with this one. Well, based on what you said earlier, you're not, but SMU taking on either Providence or USC.
Yeah.
I think this could... I don't really fully trust SMU in this game, I don't think. I feel like they might kind of underwhelm for some, and they might lose this game. I particularly have them losing to a USC, possibly.
Okay.
I have USC winning that play-in game here tonight.
What if Providence wins tonight? Would you have Providence beat SMU, or would you have SMU win?
I would rather... I think SMU would beat a Providence.
Because this video will be up before that game takes place, too, by the way.
Yeah, so I think that
YouTube.
SMU would beat a Providence more likely. Providence could upset SMU, of course. All of these games could be upset alerts for all I care. But these are the ones that I feel like.
Any of these games, they can be because it's March Madness.
Yeah,
of course. There's going to be upsets. You just don't know where they're going to be at.
Yeah, these are just my own personal ones that I looked at. I'm like, this could happen. So obviously you disagree with that a bit. But then the next one is
I actually have SMU moving on to the Sweet 16 just because last year they were good enough to make the NCAA tournament, but they had a postseason ban that was self-inflicted. So,
I have them making a Sweet 16 run themselves so they can get past that first round matchup, because the next one I have is Baylor, the 3 seed, taking on New Mexico State, the 14. Because Baylor, well, first of all, Baylor had a pretty good season, yes. Early on, they stumbled greatly, though, after getting a number 1 overall ranking.
For the first time ever in school history, they ended up losing to West Virginia and Morgantown.
Yeah, they only had like that one loss. They ended up with 7 on the season.
Yeah.
And they're a team that they seem to get upset every single year in the first round. They got upset last year in the first round to Hawaii, I do believe. A 12-5 matchup, I do believe, as well.
Yeah, and the year before that, they lost to, if I'm not mistaken, it was Georgia State.
It was Georgia State.
Who, their head coach, he was so excited, he fell out of the damn chair on the bench.
Was, the year before that, made a good run. Because
they went the whole way to the Elite Eight.
Isaiah Austin.
Yeah.
Who obviously can't play basketball anymore due to conditions, but not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I do believe Baylor could lose this game, which is the reason why I have SMU going so far, because they can get through that game. They could play New Mexico State possibly, and I don't really trust Baylor anyway. So
I think New Mexico State is going to give Baylor trouble, but I think Baylor is going to prevail in the end. But then I think SMU is going to be a little tougher test, obviously, than New Mexico State. I think SMU is going to beat Baylor, and that's why I have SMU in the Sweet 16.
The next one, and the biggest one I have listed, is a 116 upset. Gonzaga,
possibly
South
for the
Dakota
first
State.
time ever. And I agree with him on this. I was the one who actually brought it up before we started talking, and then he said he agreed with that as well.
This as well. I've had this ready for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm looking at. I'm like, this could obviously happen, because I was thinking, and it's one main factor, but obviously Gonzaga, obviously going to be perceived as the weakest of the 1 seeds. Technically is, based on where they're placed.
Yeah.
Of course, they're technically the 4th highest ranked 1 seed based on how they placed everything.
Yep.
Plus, being a non-power team, they obviously don't play the best of the best all the time anyway. No. So they could be challenged by this. But South Dakota State, I look at Mike Daum. They have a star player. He's a star player for this team.
Okay.
He averages 25 and 8 on the season. He had 30 plus in 10. Plus in the championship game for them. I don't remember what conference, against Omaha, which they barely won even. He had a 50-point game earlier in the season as well. Star players, and you brought up one just that I forgot about when we were talking about this earlier, but R.J. Hunter playing for that Georgia State team.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him.
He was basically their
coach's son.
Coach's son as well. But then if you think about...
He got drafted by the Celtics, and they ended up cutting him.
But then you think about star players in the NCAA tournament. It works out. Think about both times UConn won the past couple of years. Kemba Walker, Shabazz Napier, a couple of teams that... Well, the Kemba one was, they won the Big East tournament when the Big East was the big one.
The Big East,
Big East, the conference of champions, pretty much. And when they were pretty much unranked, won 4 days.
And that wasn't that long ago either.
Yeah, and then same thing happened with UConn. They lost in the AAC, I think it was, championship game to like Louisville or something.
Yeah.
But then Shabazz Napier took them all the way to win the championship. Even going back even further, a Matthew Dellavedova, Northern Iowa squad, like an 8 or 9 seed or something, beating a top-seeded Kansas in the second round, making a little bit of a run. Star players in the NCAA tournament make a difference, I think, and Mike Daum could be the next one.
I brought up Jimmer Fredette with BYU. Now, they didn't get to the Final Four. They ended up losing to Florida in the Elite Eight, but Jimmer...
Still a good run from
a
lower school.
For a BYU team that no one would have thought of. And BYU is actually the only team this year to beat Gonzaga. Yes. They almost beat them twice. They only beat them once, though. But I actually would not be surprised if it, and we might as well do it. Question of the week, again, for episode 49. It was actually our first ever question of the week, episode 1, back last April 1st. Will a 16 seed ever beat a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament? And I think there's a good chance that this is a year that it does happen. We're both in agreement on it. And it would be the South Dakota State Jackrabbits defeating Gonzaga.
Yes.
South Dakota State as well. They were a 14 seed a couple years ago. They defeated the number 3 seed Oklahoma Sooners, made a little bit of a run to the Sweet 16. I think they could possibly go to the Sweet 16 again if they can get past either Northwestern or Vanderbilt, the game that's right below them. Northwestern's actually going to the big dance for the first time ever in school history. And then Vanderbilt head coach Bryce Drew. Everybody knows who Bryce Drew is. Played for Valparaiso. Made a game-winning shot against Oklahoma State back in the late 90s. And he ended up coaching Valparaiso and Valpo there in Valparaiso, Indiana, for the past couple years. But then when the job opened up down there in Nashville, he took the Vanderbilt job. So I think Gonzaga's going to win just because it's never happened before. 16 beating a 1. And I mean, I really don't want to be the guy saying, "Oh, a 16 will beat a 1."
Yeah.
We both think it could happen. There's a difference, a big difference. So I ended up having Gonzaga end up moving on to Sweet 16 anyway. But Northwestern and Vanderbilt, they could dethrone them as well and give them their second loss of the season.
All right. The next one I had written down was Notre Dame and Princeton, actually.
Okay.
I feel like Princeton might be able to give Notre Dame a run for the money. Notre Dame did have a pretty good ACC tournament.
They did.
Run there, making it to the finals.
Ended up losing the
ACC being the best
who they
tournament in
could-
basketball.
who they could match up with
overall.
again.
ACC is obviously arguably the best college basketball conference at the moment.
At the moment, yes.
I'd say, especially if you look at the tournament bracket and stuff, where all their teams are seeded at very highly. Of course, they have a 1 seed, a couple of 2 seeds, so. But Notre Dame, Princeton, I feel like Princeton might be able to give them a run for their money.
Princeton, they've had their fair share of upsets before, but I think Notre Dame's just too tough right now, so I have Notre Dame moving on.
All right, on to the other side, the right side now. 6th one.
Well, I want to throw out here one before we move over there. It's the game actually right below the Notre Dame Princeton game. I talked to you about it earlier. And if you are looking at a bracket, you can, at the moment, you can, move along with us and then let us know what you think in the comments below. I think Bucknell is going to beat West Virginia up in Buffalo tomorrow. Bucknell, local school for us down in Lewisburg. Funny thing, I think, if this does happen, it'd be the second straight year West Virginia loses in the first round to a lower Division I school. Last year they lost to Stephen F. Austin, and this year potentially could lose to Bucknell in the state of New York. That game against Stephen F. Austin was in Brooklyn last year. This game against Bucknell is in Buffalo, so I don't know if that's going to have anything to do with it, but I like Bucknell over West Virginia.
All right.
That'd probably be my biggest upset, I think.
Next upset, Iowa State, Nevada. I'm not sure how Iowa State's going to be able to do this. They did win the Big 12 championship.
Because
they didn't have to play Kansas.
Because Kansas lost to TCU. Yeah. And that's why I have Kansas moving on.
They only had to beat
for a while.
Yeah, they only had to beat West Virginia in the final game. However, I will say Monte Morris, he could spark them and give them a run. He's a star player. Star players make magic happen, and they can go off that success of the Big 12 championship, the Big 12 tournament there, then maybe. But 5-12 matchup can't go wrong. I think I have all 5-12 matchups on upset alert anyway, because they always are.
Yeah.
It's the 5-12 matchup.
Yeah, this is the 12-5 that I said I do have an upset. I do have Nevada moving on over Iowa State.
All right.
Because I think Iowa State, they did win the Big 12 conference tournament because of Kansas losing, but I don't think Iowa State's that good this year.
Next one's right below it. It's a marginal one, I feel like, but Purdue, Vermont.
Potentially.
Potentially. I feel like Purdue does have a really good chance of winning this game. This is very on the edge, I feel like. Swanigan, isn't it?
Yeah, Caleb Swanigan.
Caleb Swanigan.
Big Ten Player of the Year.
Purdue, double machine down there. Up there, I guess it's technically a bit north in Purdue, but
West Lafayette, Indiana.
Yes. I feel like they might be able to win that game, but Vermont, I wouldn't rule them out, though. I mean, anything can happen.
If Purdue does lose on Thursday, tomorrow, it'll be the second straight year they lose in the first round as well, along with West Virginia if that happens. Purdue lost to, I believe it was Northern Arkansas last year in the first round by...
double overtime, I think it was.
Yeah, it was. I remember watching that game. Okay, it was double overtime. It was one hell of a game. But the Boilermakers couldn't get out on top on that game. But I think they get out on top on this one, and then they move on to beat Nevada. If they do play Iowa State, I think that could be a great game.
Yeah.
And then Iowa State could potentially move on to the Sweet 16 and then end up playing Kansas in the Sweet 16, which would be another great matchup.
Iowa State beat Kansas in Lawrence earlier this season.
Yes.
So.
But I have Kansas and Purdue there at the top of the Midwest in the Sweet 16.
All right.
So, yeah, Purdue moving on.
All right, the next one's marginal, I feel like, of course, since it's not exactly the biggest margin of upset here, but 6-11, Creighton, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I mean, Creighton is a pretty good team here. Kind of all sparking up with Doug McDermott back in the day a little bit ago. Now,
Dad's still the head coach.
Yeah, still the head coach, but now playing in the Big East, which has been better recently. It was kind of bad there when it first kind of not disbanded.
Once they reunited the Big East, it wasn't as good.
But now, think about it, Villanova's the top seed. They're out of the Big East, top seed in the entire tournament. So defending national champions, crying out loud. But Rhode Island, I feel like an emotional roller coaster for them because they had to pretty much win the A-10 just to get in here, and they did, beating VCU in the championship game. And so maybe they have a little bit of emotion on their side. Go in, beat Creighton. I'm not 100% sure about Creighton exactly.
Neither am I.
It's going to be a good matchup of two teams, I think.
Neither am I, and that's why I have Rhode Island defeating Creighton. Now, both these teams have to travel across country. Creighton doesn't have to travel as far there in Nebraska, but Rhode Island has to go from the whole way from Rhode Island to Sacramento, California. Mm-hmm. So, and then they play on Friday, but I think I don't know. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about Creighton, so that's why I'm going to take Rhode Island. And then back to Villanova too about the Big East. They play Mount St. Mary's, as we said, a 16 seed and a 1. The last 3 times, Mount St. Mary's was a 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. They played the 1 seed obviously in the first round, and all 3 of those teams ended up winning the national championship that year. And it would actually be the first time since Florida did about 10 years ago if Villanova won this year, because they would go back to back and win 2 straight national championships. But we'll have to see if that happens. I doubt it will.
Yeah, I have 2 more here, both in the South. First of all, Minnesota taking on Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee last year had a fantastic upset at 15-2, was it not?
Over Michigan State.
Michigan State team that was favored to even
win
the entire tournament.
I want to get into Michigan here after we're done talking about this, too.
All right, but Minnesota, I don't feel like they're super deserving of a 5 seed. You look at Wisconsin, who...
They're an 8.
They're an 8 seed. They were ranked in the top 25 regular season.
No.
Yeah, in the end they were.
Oh, yeah, in the end, yeah.
At the very end, Wisconsin was.
Michigan's a 7 seed.
Yeah, but they made the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin did, but Minnesota's still above them.
Yeah.
Same win-loss, of course, or losses. There was the same win-loss?
One more win for Wisconsin.
Because they beat them in the Big Ten championship. Not the game itself, but in the semifinals.
Yep.
But Middle Tennessee just did last year. Why not do it again? And I don't think Minnesota's the strongest team, strongest 5 seed either. Probably the weakest of the 5 seeds easily, looking at it.
Yeah, you got Iowa State, Virginia, and Notre Dame, as well as the other 5 seeds. I could see this happening, but I was telling him earlier, Middle Tennessee State, they do have everyone back from last year that beat Michigan State in the first round. But they had their upset last year. I don't think they get another one this year. I don't think you do 2 in a row.
All right.
Maybe do 2 in 3 years, but I don't think you're going to be able to do 2 in a row.
All right, I'll do my last one because I know you have it as well. It's the Kansas State now.
Yeah, it's Kansas State now.
I had this one before this game was even played, possibly happening. Cincinnati.
Yeah, I have marks beside some games here that I think that are going to be potentially really, really good games in the first round, and then as we wind our way down to the tournament.
So upsets for you at all? Any other upsets that you have?
Upsets.
That I didn't mention.
Well, I have Virginia Tech defeating Wisconsin. That's a 9-8, 8-9.
I don't count 9-8s or 7-10s.
Okay.
Upsets.
Okay. Potentially.
Like you said, the biggest ones are 11 through 14.
Yeah, 11 through 14.
Or even 15.
Or 15 or 16. Yeah. Yeah, we've seen a lot of 15 and 2s lately. Potentially South Dakota State over Gonzaga. I have Bucknell over West Virginia. I have Florida Gulf Coast over Florida State. I would say North Dakota over Arizona, but I have Arizona going a pretty long way, and it's North Dakota's first trip to the NCAA tournament. So if they would have been in it before, potentially that'd be a 15-2. I have Nevada and Rhode Island both winning. Potentially Middle Tennessee State. We already talked about them, and then I wouldn't be surprised if Northern Kentucky beats Kentucky.
All right.
But other than that, I don't have any other upsets.
All right. Moving on for me, at least, we'll go into safe. This is a safe category. I feel like these teams that may or may not be on upset alert by some others, I feel like these teams are safe. First of all, since you have them on upset, West Virginia, they're a bit questionable. They're probably on the far end of being safe, I feel like, because they're very hit or miss, I feel like, with that press that they got going on.
I also have Xavier over Maryland, too.
Well, I have that, too. I didn't feel like that would have been too much of an upset. It is on paper, but I feel like Xavier should win that game. It's not too big of an upset for me.
I actually have Xavier going to the Sweet 16 to match up with Arizona down there in the West. Out in San Jose in it would be a rematch, but it would be a nice, warm welcome for Sean Miller, former Xavier head coach, and then he bolted for Arizona. He's done well out there, but he just hasn't been able to get a national championship.
Yeah, but for West Virginia, I feel like they're going to get at Bucknell, and that press is going to be effective against Bucknell. I guess Florida State, Florida Gulf Coast you have there.
Yep.
I have that probably being one of the best games of the first round here because of it being in Orlando in Florida.
Yeah.
A couple of Florida teams, going to be an exciting one. I feel like Florida State's pretty safe. I feel like they're obviously going to have more fans there probably since they're a bigger school anyway. And I think having home court essentially is going to be huge because in the college game, that means a whole lot more than an NBA game because the fans are actually are impactful on the game.
Yeah.
Them getting into it, just look at like all these comebacks we've had this year even. Think about Kansas. They've had a couple of comebacks this year at home because of that crowd getting the team fired up.
Yeah.
So crowds make a difference in the college game more than any other.
The thing I like about Florida Gulf Coast is, remember a couple years ago,
Georgetown.
They beat Georgetown. That was at 15-2. They called their team nickname was Dunk City.
Yeah.
All they would do would be dunk. Well, they had more dunks this year than they did on that during that season. So this is Dunk City 2.0, and big reason why I have Florida Gulf Coast moving on.
All right, but now into the rest
and
of these.
they show one of the powerhouses in the state. How it is.
Other ones that I feel like possibly Florida, East Tennessee State, Florida. I feel like they're really safe. It's in Orlando.
Yeah.
So pretty much the same reason for the last one. They're pretty much in their backyard. They're going to have the crowd advantage in that game.
Yeah, all three of those schools are going to have a
I'll get all these four out of the way right now. I think all the 2 seeds, the 15-2 matchups, I think they're pretty safe. Duke over Troy, Arizona over North Dakota, Louisville over Jacksonville State, and Kentucky over Northern Kentucky. I think they're all pretty safe.
The one I said about the 15-2 would be Northern Kentucky over Kentucky. Kentucky, they have all that talent, but remember a couple years ago, they didn't even make the tournament. They went to NIT. They lost to Robert Morris in the first round.
It was in Pittsburgh or something.
Yeah, it
was a Robert Morris.
Right outside of Pittsburgh in Moon, Pennsylvania, Moon Township. That would be the only one for the 15-2 that I could see happening. I don't think it will, though. I have Kentucky moving on.
All right, and then I have a couple more that I feel like are super safe. But I just put them in there just in case anyone had any doubts, of course. Oregon beating Iona, I think that's going to happen no matter what. Butler
Oregon
over Winthrop, that's probably going to happen easily. And then UCLA defeating Kent State. I feel like those are all pretty safe bets right there.
Yeah, I have UCLA moving on. I have Butler moving on as well. I think UCLA and Butler are going to meet in the Elite Eight. So I have UCLA beating Kentucky, and I have Butler upsetting North Carolina. I think that would be the biggest upset in the Sweet 16 and on to the Elite Eight and Final Four. From what I have, it'd be nice to see Xavier beat Arizona, but I don't know what else you have.
Those are all the ones I feel like are safe. That you could probably consider an upset. That would be a big upset, I guess. That covers pretty much all of them that aren't a 7-10 or an 8-9 matchup.
Okay.
So, those are all the ones I kind of went through. All the 11 down. So, except for the 16 ones, really. Except for the one, because then I guess South Dakota State. Now, a lower seed, this is something that we've seen a lot of lately, especially the Cinderella story. A lower seed, making it a far away, like Elite 8, Sweet 16, or whatever. Maybe even a Final Four, possibly. But a lower seed going far. I have a whole bunch of them here that could make a little bit of a run. I'm going to start with Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin could make a run. I feel like they could beat Villanova, possibly in the second round. That one's probably the stretch of most of these. There's probably a couple others, though, but some of them are situational, of course.
Yeah.
Some of these, like the next one, UNC Wilmington, if they can win that game, then they have a chance, obviously, in the second round to move on to the Sweet 16, because they could play Florida or hell, even East Tennessee State.
Or East Tennessee State, yeah. We've seen that before. You get two teams.
Two double-digit seeds.
Exactly. Playing each other in the second round.
Make the Sweet 16. And then...
You've even seen two double-digit teams playing each other in the Sweet 16, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I think it was even last year that happened as well.
I know it happened when Florida Gulf Coast was in it a couple years ago. They were the 15 and they ended up playing 13 or 12 or something.
Yeah, and then I go through...
Can't remember.
For the lower seeds going through, I had 6 and down,
okay.
kind of. Because I feel like 5 we've seen a lot. I feel like 6 is a bit of a high number to go through because you think they have to more than likely beat a 3 and a 2 to make it like to the Elite 8 or something. But SMU being one, and then USC specifically being one, because I don't trust Baylor at all. So either of those teams can easily make it. Both, whoever wins this game, Northwestern, Vanderbilt, I feel like can do something. Especially if South Dakota State is to upset Gonzaga, first of all. I don't trust Gonzaga to begin with, obviously, if I'm picking a 16 to possibly beat them. And I did in one of my online brackets, of course. But Vanderbilt...
He said, I totally forgot. Good thing he said that about an online bracket. Be sure to go join our group on ESPN on Tournament Challenge. Just type in across the goal line. It's free to join. So be sure to join. You can add up to a total of 25 brackets in that group for just one person if you feel like it. So be sure to go join that. Links are in our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. So be sure to go check those out.
Yeah, but Northwestern, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, that's an emotional one, I feel like, because making the tournament for the first time ever, that's going to be huge. You got to maybe ride a high on that. But Vanderbilt, I like their team. They have a lot of poise, I feel like. And they upset Kentucky earlier this season. And Almost did.
They had a lead late. In Lexington.
Yeah, that's it.
At Rupp Arena.
They held them off for a while there.
And Kentucky came back.
That's correct. But they have a pretty good lineup, I feel like.
If they would obviously beat Kentucky, I think they'd be a little higher than a 9 seed.
Possibly.
They'd probably be in the 6, 7 range.
But with Luke Cornett being able to spread the floors, they're big. I feel like he's going to be able to cause a lot of matchup problems, even against the Gonzaga, because you think about their big guy down there, Kranowski or something like that. Some sort of foreign name for their 7-footer down there. Spreading him out on the floor, it's going to cause a lot of matchup problems if they were to play Gonzaga possibly in the second round. Xavier, you're going to agree with this one. They could easily make it a pretty far way, especially on your bracket where you have Florida State losing. They wouldn't have to worry about playing them in the second round.
But then we could also see Florida Gulf Coast go back to the Sweet 16.
For your bracket, yes, easily.
Possibly.
Again, situation.
You'd have Bucknell as well.
For you.
I said I had Bucknell defeating West Virginia. If Princeton beats Notre Dame, I think Bucknell would have a great shot to go to the Sweet 16 then, because they'd have to only beat Princeton and not Notre Dame. But I think Bucknell could also beat Notre Dame, and then wouldn't that be something? Bucknell, team from Central Pennsylvania, defeats two powerhouses in both football and basketball in West Virginia and Notre Dame in the same NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
And then move on to the Sweet 16 to potentially play, Gonzaga, South Dakota State, Northwestern, or Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I know I said Wisconsin would be kind of a long shot. This is another long shot. Michigan State, only really because it's Michigan State. They're a legendary program. Tom is a legendary coach. You can't really count them out. They would have to play Kansas in the second round, of course.
Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah, playing Kansas. That'd be a heck of a matchup, I feel like.
Yeah, I have that.
And I feel like Michigan State could beat Kansas in that second round. Kansas has a habit of disappointing people a lot as a 1 seed, specifically. So it could easily happen. Can't rule them out, I don't think. They didn't have a great year, but it could happen. And then Vermont, again, situationally, if Nevada were to upset Iowa State and then Vermont upset Purdue, they can play Nevada and then make the Sweet 16 then. Situationally, of course, playing a low-ranked team instead of Iowa State possibly. And then Michigan, I feel like you'll agree with that
I wanted to get in about Michigan.
Michigan, because of what they did winning the Big Ten championship game.
4 games in 4 days.
4 games, 4 days. You've seen it all the time. Teams getting hot at the right time. They can make a run. They have an opportunity.
One of those teams right now, and especially with what happened with the potential plane wreck The plane skidded off the runway whenever they were leaving Ann Arbor to go to Washington, D.C. for the Big Ten tournament. And they could have been a lot worse than what it was. Just thankful it wasn't. And I think Michigan's going to beat Oklahoma State, and then I think they're going to beat Louisville in a rematch of the national championship game from 2013. And Michigan's going to go on and then beat Oregon in the Sweet 16, but then I think eventually Michigan's going to lose to Kansas in the Elite Eight. So I'll announce Kansas as one of my first teams in the Final Four coming out of the Midwest.
Yeah, we're going to be getting that here pretty soon. And then finally, I have Middle Tennessee again situationally if Winthrop were to somehow defeat Butler.
I doubt it.
Yeah, but if they were to somehow do it, then situationally
But you never say never.
Yeah, never say never. And hell, I'm going to go
And no, I don't like Justin Bieber.
And hell, I'm going to throw Kansas State in there. Why not?
Yeah.
Because UCLA, they do have a lot of talent and stuff. They're very good shooters and very good offensively. What happens if that offense stalls out in the game against like Kansas State possibly?
Yeah. The thing with UCLA,
and that could be
they're the first team since 2005 to have all 5 starters average more than 10 points a game.
Exactly.
And
very talented.
The 2005 team won the national championship, and that's why. I think Kansas State would have a good shot if they play UCLA. Hell, Kent State could beat UCLA. That's a 14-3.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about a 14-3.
Anyone can beat anyone.
But UCLA, that game would be in Sacramento. I think they'd have home court advantage.
Exactly. That's the big
So
thing.
UCLA moves on, plays Kentucky, I think, because I think Kentucky, they're going to beat Northern Kentucky, and then Wichita State's going to beat Dayton. And then you're going to have a rematch between Wichita State and Kentucky from a couple years ago in the Elite Eight. Kentucky won, went to the Final Four and won the national championship that year. And then you have a matchup between UCLA and Kentucky, and then you also have
the regular season as well.
Yes, a rematch of the past couple years during the regular season as well. And you got actually 3 historical basketball programs in the same region in the South with North Carolina, UCLA, and Kentucky. Add all those national championships up combined, it's the most in the NCAA. So I think UCLA is going to beat Kentucky, but then as I said, I think Butler can beat North Carolina, and then you got UCLA, Butler, and then I'll announce my second team in the Final Four. I got UCLA over Butler. So UCLA and Kansas on the right side of the bracket in the Final Four.
All right.
Coming out of the Midwest and South, respectively.
And so we're pretty much getting into that because the last thing I had here was possible champions, possibly. So going to Elite Four, then I'm seeing a Final Four,
Elite Eight,
Elite Four. Yeah, great. But out of the East, it's the 1 and 2. Villanova and Duke. I feel like they're gonna match up in the Elite Eight there.
I do as well. I think Duke has the easiest road, to be honest with you, between any of the 64 teams that are going to be left.
Yeah.
Not 128.
You mentioned that, and I said that as well, that Duke pretty much has the easiest road to the Elite Eight, I feel like, looking at it, because I see them playing a SMU possibly in the Sweet 16, which isn't exactly the best team to play. There's better 6 seeds out there. I don't know about that, actually, that I look at it again. Creighton, Maryland, and Cincinnati. 2 of them I have probably losing in Cincinnati and Maryland, so... But SMU, not exactly a big-name school, but isn't Larry Brown the coach there?
He was.
He was?
He was.
But, yeah, they had a great season, of course, going 30-4. But Duke, not really having to play anybody. They would get South Carolina, Marquette possibly in the second round, one of those 2 teams. And then I don't trust Baylor at all, of course. I've said that numerous times already. So Duke, I really like them. I probably have them in the Final Four, maybe even in the national championship game.
I do have Duke in the Final Four. I should have worn my Duke jersey today because I'm a big Duke Blue Devil fan, but I didn't.
Out of the West,
so I do have Duke beating Villanova and Duke in the Final Four. So I got 3 of my teams in the Final Four already.
All right. So then out of the West, there's only one team that I can see, and that's Arizona. Really, just looking at it, I only can see Arizona for the most part. Going through my own personal predictions here, because you think of the second round, St. Mary's, VCU. I don't think any of those teams can. They might be able to give them a run for their money, but I don't think so. And then you obviously don't have Florida State, possibly, who I think would be their only real
If Florida
problem.
State does win, I think it would be a problem for Arizona Xavier as well, just because of the history of Sean Miller being their head coach.
But then they wouldn't have to play a 1 seed.
But then you got Notre Dame as well. If you get the matchup between Notre Dame and Arizona in the Elite Eight,
and I think that's the one.
You could see Notre Dame going to the Final Four.
That would be the one team I think that would give them the most trouble.
And I do have that in my Elite Eight. I have Notre Dame and Arizona.
But I would have to choose Arizona.
I do have Arizona.
Once they get to Phoenix, they're basically in their backyard.
Yes.
And they're going to be hard to beat in the Final Four if they make it there. So that's the other thing.
So what's your Final Four then?
Well, so far out of the East, I got Duke and Arizona on this show at least. I don't know what my other ones say per se. I'd have to look it up again. But yeah, Duke and Arizona on the left side there, out of the East and West. In the Midwest, then Kansas possibly, but I feel like they're going to disappoint again. Oregon, though, I think is the one team that I have making in the Final Four. Oregon. Maybe Louisville. I don't know if I can trust Louisville, though.
What about Michigan?
Michigan, I do have under my possible champions thing. They're a team that can make a long shot run to the Final Four, and they're the long shot for me. They're probably on the top level of teams that I think that as a lower seed could win, and Michigan.
Yeah, just with everything that's been going on with them.
Yeah, but as of right now,
that's why
I gotta say Oregon, at least on this show right now, as I go through it. And then out of the South, I feel like the winner of a Kentucky-UCLA matchup will go to the Final Four. Right. One of those teams.
Well, we got 3 of the 4 then. Because my Final Four, out of the East, I have Duke. Out of the West, I have Arizona. Out of the Midwest, on the right-hand side then, I have Kansas. And out of the South, I have UCLA, as I said. So, I mean, if North Carolina gets past Butler, we're going to have a hell of a matchup, possibly between North Carolina and UCLA, or North Carolina and Kentucky, possibly, maybe even Dayton, Wichita State. Kansas State possibly. If one of those teams come out and upset somebody earlier in the bracket, and then possibly if Duke wins in the Final Four, North Carolina wins in the Final Four, we might get the first ever Tobacco Road national championship game. Or if Arizona wins in the Final Four and UCLA wins in the Final Four, we'll be getting a rematch between Arizona and UCLA in the national championship game in Phoenix, Arizona. But for my national championship, it was tough since I'm a Duke fan. But I really like Arizona again this year. I picked them, I don't know how many times in the past 5 years, and they always disappoint. Always end up losing to Wisconsin, it seemed like, in the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. But I think this is Arizona's year, especially with the Final Four being in Phoenix, pretty much as you said, Cory, in their backyard. So I took Arizona over Duke to advance to the national championship game. And then off the right side of the bracket, between Kansas and UCLA, Kansas, they lost to TCU there in the Big 12 Conference Tournament. Bill Self, everybody's going to be ready to play. UCLA, they're good, but every single time I've watched them, it seems like they always lose. So I'm going to take Kansas over UCLA. So I have Arizona and Kansas in the national championship game. And then, I'll let you announce who you're going to have in your national championship game before I say who I'm going to have one.
I'm going to choose... I have 2 brackets right now.
Okay.
Ones.
I normally fill out a shit ton of brackets. I didn't feel like doing that this year. This is my only bracket that I filled out this year. Only one. It's the same one that's online on our ESPN Tournament Challenge, which you can go join. It's free, as I said earlier. Just type in across the goal line, search across the goal line. It should pop up. If you can't find it, go to our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram page. The links are in there somewhere. I'll even put the link in the comments of this video whenever it's uploaded on YouTube there. So, yeah, this is the only bracket I filled out. But since he filled out 2...
Yeah, I'm going to combine the 2 champions that I have from those brackets.
Okay.
They're going to play each other here in this one. Duke takes on UCLA.
That would be one hell of a matchup. I think any of these matchups would be, good matchups. So you have Duke, UCLA.
Yes.
We have 3 of the 4 same Final Four teams.
Yeah.
The only difference is Oregon. I have Arizona and Kansas. And I have Arizona winning. Again, as I said, I've picked them, I don't know how many times before in the past, to win, and they end up choking, as I said, pretty much to Wisconsin. And that's when they were also coming out of the West region But I think Arizona defeats Kansas. I'm going to give you a final score as well, and it's going to be 74-68. The Arizona Wildcats will defeat Bill Self. Sean Miller and the Arizona Wildcats will defeat Bill Self and the Kansas Jayhawks 74-68 to wrap up the NCAA Tournament in March Madness.
I'll give you a score for mine as well. I'm going to go, if this is the matchup, I'm going to take Duke, actually.
Okay. I really love that because I'm a Duke fan.
I feel like, well, I don't know.
I'd really like to win.
I feel like,
also win lots of money on a bracket and potentially win Cousin Sal's house, a.k.a. Jimmy Kimmel's cousin. He's putting up his house for anybody who gets the full bracket right.
But I'm going to choose Duke. I feel like they're getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, they won.
They had that lull in the middle of the season there when
Krzyzewski
was ill there for a little
bit.
He had
surgery.
Yeah, he had surgery. But they had that little bit of a lull, but then they got hot. They're getting hot at the right time. Yeah. Winning the ACC championship.
They won 5 games in 5 days. They beat Carolina and Notre Dame.
Carolina and Notre Dame. Toughest conference in basketball.
Right now.
Yes. So they're getting hot at the right time. They have a pretty easy road up to this point. Yeah. That might be a problem, but I'm going to choose Duke right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, make sure you tune in next week whenever Duke loses in the first round because I chose them.
Or Oregon. Hopefully Oregon loses.
But
yeah, next week we'll have recaps of the first and second round matchups.
Yeah.
And then next week we'll preview the Sweet 16 and Elite 8.
Yeah, we'll see who makes it. I'm actually going to use this bracket right here. It's all blank right now. I'm going to use it to fill in who is winning.
Okay.
Actually, even though there's already a bunch of marks on it already. I'm going to do a totally different color. I have like 4 different colors on there right now, but I'll do a totally different color and fill it out as we go.
Did you feel like coloring a rainbow?
Well, I wanted to differentiate everything, of course, but
I'm the same way.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, we'll go review some of that next week. I don't know if it'll be separate like it is this week. I doubt it because there's a lot to talk about this week with the NFL free agency stuff on the other video.
Yeah.
That this one is a continuation of, I guess you could say.
Yeah, this is part 2.
But yeah,
that's part 1.
And question of the week then, we decided is it going to be this year at the 16?
Well,
or what do you?
Well, it could be that. You could.
How would you want to word that?
It could differentiate it from last year's. Last year's, our first ever question of the week was, do you think a 16 seed will ever beat a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament? You could potentially say, we could say it as, do you think this will be the year that a 16 seed will beat a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament? We can go with that. Yeah. It really doesn't. There's not really much of a big difference there. Whenever I get home, I'll figure it out. I'll put it up. So just a 16 seed over a 1, do you think it will ever happen? And if so, will this be the year? There's our question of the week for you.
Right.
We'll combine the two of them together, and, that's what we got for you. So be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, ATGL16. Follow me on Twitter at CoolHandLuke96. Follow him on Twitter at CAMans14. Subscribe on YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube. Retweet our tweets. Share our videos. Whatever the hell you got to do. The links are all in the YouTube description, and then also have the link for our tournament challenge in the comment of this video over on YouTube. So we'll see you next week on Across the Goal Line.